Xiao had no intention of giving Xiao Yin any breathing room. His figure immediately shot forward, and behind him, a massive vortex of spiritual energy formed. A towering figure, radiating a blood-red light that seemed to corrode everything, stepped forward, causing the very heavens and earth to tremble. The blood god spear in Xiao's hand also expanded wildly at this moment, growing to a colossal size. The blood demon body behind him reached out and firmly grasped the enormous spear, wielding it as if he were a bloodthirsty war god. With the massive blood demon body taking steps that shook the earth, Xiao swung the blood god's spear with terrifying force toward Xiao Yin. The sheer power caused the space to collapse. Even a peak 9th grade supreme would have to retreat in the face of such overwhelming might. Crash! Ahead of him, Xiao Yan's Flame Emperor's body gathered the sea of magma behind him into the ancient, heavenly flame ruler in his hand. Then, this world-destroying force was unleashed directly at Xiao. The collision of these two powerful forms, both containing destructive energy, caused an earth-shattering clash in this world. When the ancient heavenly flame ruler collided with the blood god's spear, the ground around them instantly caved in, and a circular rupture formed in the void for thousands of miles, centered around their massive bodies. Space fracture. This was something only an Earth Supreme could achieve, but it appeared in this clash, demonstrating how terrifying this confrontation truly was. And the result was evenly matched. Seeing that his full-force attack was blocked by Xiao Yin, Xiao's expression darkened, a chilling intent rising in his heart. Haha, let's go again. Xiao Yin, wielding the enormous ancient heavenly flame ruler, mobilized the surrounding spiritual energy, sending Xiao's blood demon body flying back. Before Xiao could react, Xiao Yan's Flame Emperor's body charged forward once more, the brilliant flame ruler carrying destructive power as it came crashing down upon the blood demon body. Your blood god clan is nothing, came Xiao Yan's cold laugh, as the massive flame ruler soared through the sky, smashing into Xiao's blood demon body. Boom! The terrifying flame power sent the blood demon body flying, and the already devastated ground was torn apart, creating a massive chasm spanning 100,000 miles. It was like the abyss of the twin emperors in Zhongzhou. Spitting blood, Xiao's blood demon body had taken a heavy blow. Activate the Blood God Grand Array. If this person doesn't die today, it will be a great disaster for my Blood God clan. Xiao roared, and another elder from the Blood God clan, who had been hesitant to engage earlier from miles away, immediately snapped out of his daze. He quickly summoned his spiritual energy and a jade disc appeared in his hand. Blood God Grand Array, activate. The elder poured all of his 9th grade supreme level spiritual energy into the jade disc, and immediately, a blood-red light that covered the sky and the sun spread out, forming a massive ancient formation that spanned 100,000 feet. Blood-colored lines etched the formation, stretching across the heavens. Swish, swish, swish. As the Blood God Grand Array expanded, the sound of breaking air filled the skies. Over 100 figures shot in from all directions, each one landing in different positions within the formation. These people were all at least at the supreme level. An array activated by over 100 supreme level experts was enough to directly withstand any force below the Earth supreme level. Far off, Yun, who was facing off against the Blood God clan's Grand Elder, sensed the shocking fluctuations from Xiao Yan's side. The formation also caused him a moment of unease. Don't get distracted at a time like this. A hoarse voice echoed through the heavens. Boom. In the sky, space fractured and collapsed into a massive spiritual energy hand that descended toward Yun. He immediately activated his Supreme Sea, a monstrous surge of spiritual energy forming into a 10,000-foot-long black serpent, which shot toward the giant hand above. Yun knew that if he didn't deal with the Blood God clan's Grand Elder, he wouldn't be able to go to Xiao Yan's aid. On the other side, Xiao Yan watched the unfolding Blood God Array and felt a shock in his heart. The fluctuations coming from that formation were far more dangerous than Xiao. I want to see how this formation can stop me. Looking at the Blood God Grand Array ahead, Xiao Yan's expression grew serious as he muttered to himself. At this moment, The Flame Emperor's body he had transformed into began to slowly dissipate, revealing a thin figure in black robes, which reappeared under the gaze of all those present. Boom! A surge of blazing flame spiritual energy erupted from Xiao Yan's body, and as he pushed his power to its limits, he began to change the hand seals he was forming. Buzz! An intense, fiery wave rippled behind Xiao Yan, and brilliant flames spread out, forming an endless sea of fire. Above this fire sea, countless exquisite fire lotuses floated up, covering the sky and merging into one another, creating even more powerful and beautiful fire lotuses. Boom! Just as Xiao Yan was about to unleash his move, a thunderous roar suddenly rang out through the heavens and earth. A dark blue bolt of lightning pierced the sky from the distance, and the terrifying speed it carried smashed directly into the Blood God Grand Array, which was on the verge of activation. Boom! 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 The sudden change left all the Blood God clan experts unable to react. When the terrifying lightning struck the Blood God Grand Array, the entire formation shattered. The supreme experts sitting within the formation were all heavily injured, blood spitting from their mouths. Who? In the distance, Xuexian, whose aura was somewhat weak, was also shaken by this sudden change. His gaze fixed on the rapidly collapsing Blood God Grand Array, and he saw a towering figure gradually becoming visible amidst the lightning. It was a middle-aged man in a short robe, with a powerful, imposing figure and a resolute expression, as if he was ready to fight both heaven and earth. What shocked Xuexian even more was the aura emanating from this middle-aged man. He had reached the true Earth Supreme level, even more powerful than the Grand Elder of the Blood God clan who had just advanced to Earth Supreme. On the other side, Xiao Yan also looked in surprise at the suddenly appearing figure. The middle-aged man slowly raised his head to meet Xiao Yan's gaze, a faint, barely noticeable smile playing at the corner of his lips. Are you the one who broke through the shackles and came from the lower dimension? I think. Your name is Xiao Yan, right? The towering man smiled and said, looking at Xiao Yan. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed slightly, and then the next words from the towering man caused Xiao Yan's heart to tremble. I owe the Lord of the Western Heaven Palace a favor. He asked me to come here and bring you back. The man's voice was full of heroic spirit, reverberating through the heavens and earth. Not far away, Xuexian's expression changed drastically upon hearing these words. The Western Heaven Palace's position within the Western Heaven realm was well known to those at the supreme level. This colossal power possessed strength far beyond the 4 great divine clans. Fortunately, the Western Heaven Palace had never sought conflicts with the outside world. Western Heaven Palace, who are you? Xuexian exclaimed in shock, his voice filled with disbelief as he stared at the towering man. Upon hearing Xuexian's words, the towering man smiled slightly. With his hands behind his back, he stood tall in midair, slowly lifting his head, his posture as if gazing down upon the world. His calm voice then rang out. Student of Northern Heavens Academy, Qin Zhantian. As the man's words echoed across the world, Xuexian, who was not far away, froze in place. Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy? Xuexian's voice was filled with astonishment. He had heard of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, one of the 5 great spirit academies, which was renowned across the Great Thousand Worlds. Its influence stretched from the weakest spirit realm to the strongest heavenly supreme, with a legacy that surpassed even the strength of the 5 major academies themselves. This was not only because of the formidable power of these academies, but also due to the many powerful individuals they trained, who were scattered across the Great Thousand Worlds. Could it be that this man before him was one of their super-talented geniuses? And what he just mentioned, an entity that could shake the Blood God clan, was the Western Heaven Palace, the true hegemonic force within the Western Heaven realm, a power even greater than the peak of the Luo God clan's former glory. If that was indeed the case, the Blood God clan could no longer act rashly. Xiao Yan, my little brother, let's go. The Lord of the Western Heaven Palace wishes to meet you. Xiao Yan was also momentarily shocked by the sudden appearance of this towering figure. According to what He Yuan had said earlier, the Do-Chi continent where Xiao Yan was located should have been undetectable by the lower dimensional super alliances of the Great Thousand Worlds. as long as it hadn't suffered an invasion by the so-called extraterritorial evil clan. Yet now, how was it that they knew of his arrival? As Xiao Yin pondered this, his heart suddenly shook, for he had realized how the Western Heaven Palace knew about his movements. The battle where he had helped the Luo God clan defeat the Blood God clan might have already spread throughout the Western Heaven realm, and his identity as a lower-dimensional breakthrough practitioner was naturally not something that could be hidden. This information had likely been obtained by the Western Heaven Palace. Far in the distance, the battle between He Yuan Yun and the Grand Elder of the Blood God clan had paused as they both turned to witness the unfolding scene. Qin Zhantian's words also reached their ears. Western Heaven Palace? The Grand Elder of the Blood God clan froze for a moment upon hearing Qin Zhantian's words, shock and horror rising in his heart. Heh, so they finally arrived? He Yuan Yun grinned as he watched Qin Zhantian in the distance. Could it be that he and Xiao Yin had won this battle after all? This boy has killed nearly 10 of our clan's supreme experts. You can't just take him away like this, a voice suddenly interrupted, indifferent yet powerful. As everyone was stunned by Qin Zhantian's appearance, another indifferent voice rang out across the heavens and earth. Soon, a terrifying spiritual energy, no less powerful than Qin Zhantian's, swept across the sky from another direction, creating a massive spatial vortex that tore through the heavens. A giant figure emerged from the whirlpool, and as it fully stepped out, the tumultuous atmosphere calmed immediately. A towering figure dressed in blood-red robes appeared. Clan leader. Seeing the appearance of the blood-robed figure, Xue Xian, standing on the other side, was at first astonished, but then joy filled his expression. With the clan leader, who had already reached the Earth Supreme level, stepping in, even if Qin Zhantian wanted to take Xiao Yin, it would not be an easy task. In the distance, the Grand Elder of the Blood God clan also smiled faintly. Even the Blood clan leader has appeared. I must say, I'm feeling proud. Qin Zhantian looked at the figure of the Blood God clan leader stepping out of the sky and smiled. But is the clan leader's sudden appearance meant to stop the Western Heaven Palace from acting? Heh, when it comes to the Western Heaven Palace's actions, not even our Blood God clan, let alone the 4 great divine clans, would dare to interfere, the Blood clan leader replied with a faint smile. Oh, then there's no problem. I'll take the person with me, Qin Zhantian said, dismissively waving his hand, then turning to leave, completely ignoring the Blood clan leader. Boom. However, just as Qin Zhantian was about to leave, a deep, resounding explosion echoed from another direction, causing Qin Zhantian to freeze for a moment. Behind him, the space rippled as countless blood-red lights surged. The space cracked open, and a blood-red spiritual energy, like a terrifying torrent, rushed toward him. Seems like the Blood clan leader isn't going to let this go easily, Qin Zhantian muttered, grinning as he raised his hand and struck into the void. With a sudden yank, the space shattered, and he pulled out a large, dark staff that was over 10 feet long. A powerful force that shook the heavens and earth began to emanate from it. This was a weapon beyond a top-grade divine artifact. The dark staff in Qin Zhantian's hands expanded rapidly, growing into a massive, mysterious staff shadow that slammed into the blood-red torrent. The overwhelming force obliterated the torrent in an instant. After shattering the blood-red stream, Qin Zhantian controlled the massive staff and hurled it toward the distant Blood clan leader. The terrifying force destroyed the very space it passed through, enough to annihilate even a 9th-grade supreme. I told you, this boy killed nearly 10 of our clan's supreme experts. He can't just leave without any consequences, right? The Blood clan leader said coldly, his eyes indifferent as he watched the enormous staff descending from above. Blood God Bell. From afar, the Grand Elder of the Blood God clan was stunned when he saw the Blood clan patriarch summon the dark red bell. The Blood God Bell was a clan-defining artifact of the Blood God clan, comparable to the Luo God Sword of the Luo God clan. Now, the Blood clan patriarch had summoned it, clearly indicating that he didn't consider Qin Zhantian an ordinary opponent. Buzz. The palm-sized dark red bell floated above the Blood clan patriarch's palm. With a wave of his hand, the Blood God Bell flew out and rapidly expanded, forming a massive, towering red bell that shielded him within. Clang! A colossal black rod slammed into the blood god bell. The clear ringing sound echoed through the heavens, but the blood god bell, under the immense force of the strike, was only pushed back by 1,000 feet, remaining unharmed. The Blood Clan patriarch inside the bell smiled faintly as he gazed at Qin Zhantian in the distance. Qin Zhantian grinned back, then slowly raised his hands, performing intricate hand seals. Behind him, a massive spiritual vortex appeared in the sky, within which a towering figure emerged, releasing an overwhelming aura of power. It was a massive figure, completely black in color, resembling an ancient ape. Every inch of its body seemed like forged steel, reflecting the surrounding light. The mighty Supreme Dharma body reached out, grasping Qin Zhantian's enormous black rod and lifting it effortlessly as if it were a weapon of an ancient god of war. 61st level Dharma body. The heavenly ape warrior body? The Blood Clan patriarch's expression shifted slightly as he saw Qin Zhantian's supreme Dharma body. However, he soon narrowed his eyes, and an overwhelming aura burst forth from him, sweeping across the heavens. Behind him, another massive spiritual vortex appeared, and a giant blood-red supreme Dharma body stepped out. Unlike the blood demon body, this form was even more terrifying. The strongest supreme Dharma body of the Blood God clan, the 46th level Dharma body, the Blood Emperor's body. The two gargantuan figures faced off, their mere presence freezing the surrounding spiritual energy. Whoosh! A tearing sound echoed as a flash of light streaked through the sky. It was He Yuanyun, with a blood-red shadow trailing behind him, rushing forward. Boom! But as the Grand Elder of the Blood God clan chased He Yuanyun, a massive black rod descended from the sky with a thunderous crash. The Grand Elder hastily retreated, knowing that the force behind it would be unbearable. He looked over at Qin Zhantian, who stood proudly, arms crossed, staring back at him. The strike that interrupted him had come from Qin Zhantian. "Xiao Yin, let's go," He Yuanyun said, approaching Xiao Yin. Xiao Yin snapped out of his thoughts, glanced at Qin Zhantian, who was holding off the two strongest members of the Blood God clan. The rest of the Blood God clan's forces posed no threat to him and He Yuanyun. "Thank you, Brother Qin. Xiao Yin will remember this," Xiao Yin said, cupping his hands in gratitude. Without hesitation, he sped off toward the distant sky, with He Yuanyun following suit, throwing a contemptuous glance at the Blood God clan members. The two shadows sped off without interference, disappearing at the boundary of the heavens. The Blood Clan patriarch and the Grand Elder, under the intimidation from Qin Zhantian, made no further moves. Mission accomplished. Thanks for the cooperation, Qin Zhantian sighed in relief as he watched Xiao Yin and He Yuanyun disappear into the distance. The massive supreme Dharma body behind him began to dissipate, and the black rod quickly shrank and returned to his body. His mission wasn't to engage in a life-or-death battle with the Blood God clan. It was only to ensure Xiao Yan's safe departure. "Please give my regards to the Palace Master," the Blood Clan patriarch sneered, waving his sleeve as his blood demon body dissolved. He also disappeared into the void. Qin Zhantian smiled faintly. With a movement of his body, the surrounding space began to ripple, forming a spatial portal. Standing with his hands behind his back, he calmly walked through the portal under the astonished gaze of the Blood God clan Grand Elder. The world fell silent again. A day passed. Far from the Blood God Grand Domain, three shadows flew across the sky. "This is already within the boundaries of the Western Heaven Realm. No matter how bold the Blood God clan may be, they wouldn't dare pursue us here," Qin Zhantian remarked, glancing at Xiao Yin with a faint smile. "Brother Qin, are you part of the Western Heaven Palace?" Xiao Yin inquired upon hearing this. "I merely owe the Palace Master of the Western Heaven Palace a small favor," Qin Zhantian replied casually. Then, as if recalling something, he turned to Xiao Yin and asked, "Did you really just come from a lower dimension?" "It's been half a year," Xiao Yin responded. Hearing this, Qin Zhantian couldn't help but gasp. He was somewhat familiar with the vast disparity between lower dimensions and the Great Thousand Worlds. Typically, someone from a lower dimension who breaks through the dimensional barrier would arrive in the Great Thousand Worlds at the heaven merging stage of the Three Heavens stage. Those from middle dimensions could generally reach the heaven transformation stage, while individuals from higher dimensions would attain the heaven-reaching stage. Achieving the supreme level during the dimensional breakthrough was something only possible for those from super dimensions. However, even for individuals breaking through from super dimensions, upon arriving in the Great Thousand Worlds, they would at best be newly advanced supremes. Xiao Yin, on the other hand, had astonishingly reached the peak of the 9th grade supreme in just half a year, a step away from becoming an Earth supreme. This was entirely beyond Qin Zhantian's understanding and the limits of his cognition. No wonder the palace master of the Western Heaven Palace immediately sent him to escort Xiao Yin upon learning of his arrival in the Luo God Grand Domain. Someone with such potential, if given time to grow, could possibly achieve accomplishments no less than that of the palace master himself. Did you break through the dimensional barrier on your own? Qin Zhantian asked. There were 4 others with me, Xiao Yin answered. And where are they now? Qin Zhantian continued. We were separated during the dimensional turbulence. I want to find them as soon as possible. Being apart from them leaves me uneasy, Xiao Yin said calmly. Hearing this, Qin Zhantian smiled faintly. It seemed the young man before him had a sense of responsibility. Beside him, He Yuanyun also silently approved, thinking that someone whom Kai Lin liked was not someone lacking in character. The 3 of them continued at their current speed, flying for several hours until they finally entered the inner region of the Western Heaven Realm. At this moment, Xiao Yan's pupils suddenly dilated as he witnessed a scene that shocked him. A vast, endless forest filled with towering trees, tens of thousands of feet tall, stretched out before them. Gazing at these ancient and towering trees, a profound and familiar sense of antiquity surged in Xiao Yan's heart. Shock filled his expression, for he knew that even a single one of these trees would be enough to cause a sensation in the continent of Doqi. These towering trees, growing in abundance here, were none other than Bodhi ancient trees. Rustle. A gentle breeze swept through the forest, causing the massive leaves of the trees to sway slightly, producing a clear and melodious sound that was utterly enchanting. Hovering in midair, Xiao Yin stared at the ancient forest before him, his expression brimming with astonishment. On the continent of Doqi, a single Bodhi ancient tree was enough to cause a commotion across the entire dimension, yet here they grew in an endless expanse. What's wrong? He Yuanyun noticed the astonishment on Xiao Yan's face and followed his gaze toward the forest of ancient trees. Nothing, Xiao Yan replied as he collected himself. He casually dismissed the question and turned his gaze toward the end of the Bodhi forest. Let's go. We should be close. Hearing this, both He Yuanyun and Qin Zhantian shrugged in mild confusion before following Xiao Yan's lead. The 3 figures streaked across the sky above the Bodhi forest at an incredible speed. During their flight, Xiao Yan noticed several figures moving through the distant sky. To his surprise, everyone passing through this forest seemed to be at the supreme level, with even 9th grade supremes among them. They're all carrying out tasks assigned by the palace master of the Battle Sovereign Hall. I'm merely here to repay a favor, Qin Zhantian explained. A mission? What mission? Xiao Yan asked curiously. The palace master of the Western Heaven Palace is a dimensional barrier breaker from a lower dimension, Qin Zhantian said with a faint smile. His original dimension wasn't overrun by the extraterritorial evil clan. However, if the lower dimensions are divided into eastern, western, southern, and northern quadrants, all the dimensions in the region where the palace master originated, numbering in the millions, have been completely wiped out. The palace master's dimension was the very last one remaining, and it was only a high-level dimension. Before it fell, the palace master broke through the dimensional barrier and arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds. You wouldn't believe it, but when the palace master first arrived here, he was only at the heaven-reaching stage. To have come this far, how are the dimensions in the direction that the Western Heaven Palace master mentioned before? Xiao Yan asked again. Here. Qin Zhantian motioned for Xiao Yan to look at the figures constantly entering and exiting around them. As they delved deeper into the Western Heaven realm, the number of figures grew explosively. He could even see nearly 10,000 figures forming a team, charging toward the distance like an army. The sheer force of that impact would likely make even 5th or 6th grade Supremes hesitant to block it. Assistance was launched a century ago, and every year, they have been reclaiming thousands of dimensions. The Western Heaven Palace sends out no less than 1,000 Supreme experts to the lower dimensions every year. By now, dozens of thousands of extraterritorial evil clan forces in those dimensions have been cleansed. Qin Zhantian said, "The Western Heaven Palace has so many Supreme experts?" He Yuan Yun, who had been silent, suddenly asked. His confusion wasn't about the thousands of Supreme experts sent, but rather about those Supreme experts who had fallen during the dimensional reclamation wars. In battles of such a scale, it was inevitable that powerful warriors would perish. Even if dozens of Supreme experts fell every year from the 1,000 sent, that would mean thousands had died over the course of a century. The true number was likely much higher. Given that the Western Heaven Palace had lost thousands of Supreme experts, how could they maintain such a prosperous state? "Do you know about the Western Heaven Spirit Disk?" Qin Zhantian looked at He Yuan Yun and asked. "The hall-guarding divine artifact of the Western Heaven Palace, capable of observing any corner of the Great Thousand Worlds and detecting breakthrough individuals in the lower dimensions. I've heard of it," He Yuan Yun replied. "Yes, those breakthrough individuals from the lower dimensions are the fresh blood of the Western Heaven Palace. It has been maintained like this for the past century.